What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for The Flash, Season 5, Episode 17, titled Time Bomb. This episode continues where Episode 16 left off with this new Cicada taking over from Orlin, and this episode really cemented this new Cicada as the main villain of this season, unless it will be revealed that Reverse Flash was behind everything, and he will actually be the main villain even after this new Cicada. But now, in this episode, Orlin Dwyer is officially dead, and this new Cicada, Grace Gibbons from the future, is, as of right now, the main villain of the season, and I think that she's a huge improvement over the original. Now, I'll go over what I think about this episode, and in short, I think the season has been going really well lately. Like the past 4 episodes, it's been really good, and I'm genuinely excited for the rest of the season. I think this season will end up being a very good one, and I'll go over all of that in this review. Before I get to the main storyline of the episode, I want to go over the side storylines, just because the main storyline, they did happen like in the beginning, at the end, and throughout, but I do feel like I should talk about that after I talk about the side storylines. One of them was pretty good, the other one was really good. The one that I thought that was pretty good, not great, was the one with Cisco and Ralph. It felt like one of these storylines that didn't necessarily need to be in the episode, but I did enjoy it nonetheless. I really liked the back and forth between Cisco and Ralph, and I like the fact that they're obviously really trying to push this relationship with Cisco and Camilla in order to set up his departure from the show, probably, and I think if that's what's going to happen, they're doing a pretty good job with that. I did like seeing Ralph back. He hasn't been in the last couple episodes at all, which did feel a little weird. I didn't notice that in episode 15, but I definitely did in episode 16, and I'm glad that he's back for this episode. So in general, this storyline, again, not the strongest part of the episode, easily the weakest, but at the same time, I did actually kind of enjoy it a lot more than most of this type of side storyline. The other side storyline has to do with Sherlock Wells, and I've said this before, but this is one of the most interesting parts of the season, Sherlock's investigation of Nora, and after this episode, I'm kind of mad that this was Sherlock this whole time and not Ralph. Ralph is a detective in the comics, and we were told that we were going to get more of his detective side in this season. This could have been perfect for Ralph, and at the end, when Sherlock has this big reveal to the team, it would have been so awesome. It would have made Ralph look so awesome to have that moment, and I think this was kind of a waste for Sherlock because he's probably going to leave after this season, and Ralph could have really benefited from this storyline. So that's my only gripe with this whole storyline this season, because I really did like it. It's probably one of the most interesting parts of the season, Sherlock's whole investigation of Nora and who she's working with. I love how it was executed, and the conclusion of that in this episode and the climax of that in this episode was amazing. And this entire storyline with Sherlock investigating who she's working with, ending in this episode figuring out that it is Eobard Thawne. And I'll talk about that scene with Sherlock telling T Flash that Nora has been working with Thawne at the end of this review, because that was at the end of the episode. It was also the best part of the episode as well, but I think that Sherlock has been a pretty great character because of this storyline, on par with the better Wellses of Season 1 and 2, not so much of Season 3 and Harry Wells in Season 4, but I think they've been doing a great job with Sherlock. I just think this storyline would have made so much sense to give to Ralph, and it would have made Ralph seem so awesome at the end of this episode. But anyway, I think the storyline was great, and it was a great conclusion to this investigation that Sherlock has been doing. But anyway, on to the main storyline of the episode, which was pretty awesome. In this storyline, Cicada was talking with the original Cicada quite a lot, setting up some sort of conflict between them. This new Cicada is a lot more aggressive and like a lot more psychopathic than the original one, and the old Cicada also has kind of regained his sanity and is no longer crazy angry about anything because probably he lost his powers. It might be that these powers are affecting them in some way, making them insanely angry. That might be revealed in the next couple episodes, because when Cicada lost his powers, he seemed to calm down quite a bit. But I think the storyline is also really good. The new Cicada goes after the woman who accidentally killed her parents, although she doesn't know that it was an accident, and that made for some great conflict with the character herself. We see this new character who I'm guessing her name is Time Bomb, as the episode is titled Time Bomb, and her husband called her a living time bomb, so she's probably Time Bomb, and her powers are pretty cool. But the fight scenes between Cicada and the Flash and Nora and Time Bomb are actually pretty great fight scenes. The one in that soccer hall, or the soccer convention, whatever that thing was pretty good. Not incredible or anything, but we saw their powers quite a bit, and I liked how they used all of that. And Time Bomb also, we saw her powers against Cicada, but really it was in the hospital later that the fight scenes got really good. In that fight scene between Cicada and Flash XS and Vicky Bolin, who's not named Time Bomb, but that's just her unofficial name that I'm going to call her, Vicky's daughter got injured because of Time Bomb's bomb, which led them to go to the hospital for her daughter, which led Cicada to go after them in the hospital. This was a pretty awesome fight scene when the new Cicada threw her dagger right through the window. That shot itself looked great. Like, the visuals of this fight scene were the best part about it. There was that shot in the window with the lightning dagger. Then there was a shot with the flash ring, which I thought that flash ring shot looked incredible. It was only the second one this season. I think that literally last episode I thought, wait a second, they haven't used the flash ring in a very long time. I haven't even noticed at all between episodes 1 and 15, but last episode, for some reason, I thought they should probably bring it back, and this episode they actually did in a pretty incredible moment between this lightning dagger chasing after Barry, and he brings out his flash ring and runs these people out of the hospital. And then there's also this race, this basically a speedster race between XS and, not a speedster, but the lightning dagger, which I thought was a pretty great twist on speedster races. I think we haven't seen much of this season, but I'm glad they had this one, which was pretty great. And then there was the whole confrontation at the end with Cicada and Barry, or Cicada and the Flash, facing off. This part of it definitely wasn't the best in terms of the fight scenes. I mean, it was really just the new Cicada tossing Barry around with her powers, but it was really at the end of it that it got pretty intense. When the old Cicada showed up, I don't know how he got there, probably with a car or something, but he showed up and he confronted the new Cicada, and I do think this scene was a little predictable how it all went down. When Cicada said that it is too late, I literally said, she's about to say, you're right, it's too late, and I said that, and then that literally happened. So it was a little predictable, and it was very clear that he was going to die in the scene. So I'm not going to say this was an incredible scene because it was a little predictable, but I do like how it went down, and I do think that this is a good direction for the season to kill off the old Cicada, to have this new Cicada seem even more psychopathic and even more ruthless than the old one, which she is, because she doesn't have any remorse even for her uncle, and she now has no emotional tether to anything, and she could just go all loose on everything, and I'm actually pretty excited for that. So I do like how this went down. It was just definitely a little predictable and a little cliche how it all went down, how she said, no, you're right, it is too late. That was a very, very cliche moment, but it was still a good one nonetheless. Before I get to the pretty incredible ending that I will talk about in depth, I want to talk about the references in this episode, because there were two references to pretty big comic book characters. One of them has been referenced a lot before. In fact, he's already been referenced this week on Arrow, and that is Spider-Man, who for some reason is so referenced in the Arrowverse ever since the Flash Season 4 started. Basically, 5 times a season they reference Spider-Man, which is a pretty great moment because it shows that Marvel Comics is comics in this universe. But also there was a reference to Shazam, where Cisco said Project Shazam, which based off the episode seems like this means that they have to change something in the past, and you could see if that changes this other object, which is presumably from the future. And this is not exactly a reference to Shazam, but the fact that they mentioned the word Shazam in a DC TV show probably was some sort of reference from the writers, and this is the first time Shazam has ever been mentioned ever, and the first time it's ever been referenced, or he's ever been referenced in the Arrowverse outside of mentioning Black Adam or his country or things like that. So those references were pretty great, but now on to easily the best part of this episode, the ending. This is the moment that I was really waiting for in this episode. It was a moment in the trailer, but it didn't actually happen until the very last scene of the episode, and that is Nora doesn't reveal to Team Flash that she's working with Dawn, but it is revealed to Team Flash that she is working with Dawn, and I think they did it the best possible way they can. They gave the job to Sherlock, which made the scene so awesome, and like I said earlier, made Sherlock seem and feel so incredibly badass just for figuring this out. Again, it would have been incredible if this was Ralph, but either way, I think they really did this incredibly well. This is a scene that I was so excited and so anxious to see in this episode after it was the main point of the trailer, and again, it didn't happen until the end, which is why throughout this entire episode, I was incredibly anxious to see this scene, and then when we finally did, I think it was done incredibly well. This huge reveal that the Flash, or XS, is working with the Flash's arch nemesis, Reverse Flash, the way they handled it with with the Sherlock storyline connecting to this scene, the way Sherlock just unraveled it onto Team Flash, and on top of that, probably the best part is Barry's reaction, and also Iris's, just the entirety of Team Flash's reaction to this. Barry, you could see he's torn up about this. He has his eyes are starting to water, and he just loses it, and I was a little bit scared when he started running at excess. I thought he would do something like punch her in the face or something. I didn't actually think he would do that, but it felt like in that moment he was so angry. And I think just the tension of the moment building up to all the reactions and just the silence of it all, and then Barry decides to run at excess. I got a little startled and I got a little scared in that moment because of the intensity and all the tension in the room. He didn't actually do anything except for run her to the Metahuman wing under the prison, or under the Star Labs in the prison, which was a good call on his part and a great ending to this episode. And in the end, I think this whole scene was something that I was so excited for, and it did not disappoint at all. The revelation from Sherlock done incredibly well, and that ending to that storyline was handled well, and the reactions, especially from Nora, but also the reactions from Barry and Iris and the rest of Team Flash, were handled incredibly well, extremely well acted by every single actor, especially Grant Gustin. You could obviously see that he is hurt and he is surprised and very shocked by this revelation. I just think that they executed this incredibly well. Easily the best scene of this episode, and probably the best scene, if not one of the best scenes of this season, and I think Season 5 is shaping up to be one of the better seasons of this show. In conclusion, I think the season has been ramping up very well in the last 4 episodes, and they really have been getting on track and becoming a great season. This episode is no exception. A great conclusion to a lot of storylines, like Sherlock's investigation and Nora's secret about Reverse Flash. I also didn't say this, but this episode had a lot of moments that told Nora that she should reveal to Team Flash her secret, and I like the fact that in the end, it wasn't actually her that revealed it all, so she was kind of robbed of the chance to tell the secret on her own, which makes sense because she kept the secret for so long. And I like the fact that Sherlock was the one to actually give it out. But I don't really have any problems with this episode. I think the fight scenes are visually very, very pleasing. I think every storyline is good to great. There are some not great ones, like the one with Cisco, but it is still a lot better than most storylines of the sort, and I think the ending is what made this episode go from pretty great to basically amazing. So I will give this episode a 9.6 out of 10, but let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.